Hello. I know it's been a while since I've done one of these poetry lockdowns, but I thought I would come back for a special edition because I have a book coming out. I'm really excited about it. The book is called Knucklehead. Show it there. That beautiful cover image is from Maceo Montoya. He's a writer as well as a visual artist from California. I've collaborated with him in some of my work at Cristo Rey. And I'm just really excited about this new book. So I thought it'd be fun to read a few poems from the book, say a little bit about it, and also give a big thank you to you all for tuning in. So that, doing that poetry series for, I think it was like a year and a half, a lot of poems. It really sustained me being able to share that work with a community of people, and also just get to know more people through sharing and reading poetry. So I just wanted to say thank you. Honestly, I don't think I could have written this book had I not been doing all these weird and wacky and hopefully wonderful in some ways poems and sharing them because those poems really got me recharged and restarted as a poet. It had been a long time since my last book. And it kind of got me back to the page. So thank you. If you were part of that online community, I really appreciated you. So let me talk a little bit about the book. So the book's called Knucklehead. And I'm going to read the title poem in a minute or two. If you know me at all, you know I've been a high school teacher on and off for almost 15 years. And that word knucklehead is a word I found myself, especially in my first go-round, my first 6 or 7 years as a teacher before I stepped away, kind of using without thinking, right? Students who kind of got under my skin, all that knucklehead, doing the knucklehead thing. And so it's really interesting when I stepped away from teaching. I'm going to read a poem about when I was not in the classroom anymore in Chicago. And it was funny because those students who had gotten under my skin the most when I was in the classroom were the ones I actually remembered the best and kind of haunted me a little bit. So I wrote a poem for, thinking of kind of a composite knucklehead. And then, when the pandemic hit, I found myself thinking a lot about the act of teaching and also about the realization kind of hit me that, oh my goodness, like these sort of stubborn traits that I find or have found in students over my career as a teacher, they're in me, like in very big ways. So as the book progressed, I actually began to identify as the knucklehead. So I'll read one other poem. There's like a series of poems in the second half of the book where I sort of inhabit the persona of the knucklehead and write from that perspective and realize I am the knucklehead, and all of us, I think, in some way, can inhabit that knucklehead persona in various parts of our lives. So that is my first go-round at trying to sum up the book, Knucklehead. Check it out. Coming to bookstores near you if you're in the Twin Cities. Otherwise, I don't know. You can probably find it online somewhere. Okay, so let me read the title poem, which was written a good while ago when Christina and I were in Chicago. I was just thinking about teaching. And so both the poems I will read are really addressed to students, and the dedication of the book says to my students, and I use that preposition deliberately because I don't like trying to write for someone. I'm really writing it in address form to them, to my students. So this one is especially to Knucklehead. Knucklehead, I can still see the sneer on your freshman face. Hear the Spanish you spoke with brutal grace. Chingate pendejo, rolling off your tongue. Still see the stare I used to no effect. I was so young. From other teachers I heard the same. You like to see us boil over. It was a game. Go ahead, say, I got to you. Say, admit it. Another month of me, you might have quit. Maybe. But this isn't about settling scores. This is me turning on lights, opening doors. I survived you is ugly, but so is forgive, so is I learned so much. What is this, then, this thing in my lap on the train? Is this a poem? I get on. I'll get off again. Western, Montrose, the stops pass me by. Meanwhile, I keep trying to pin it down. I keep telling myself, today will be the day it clicks. You'll see. I could say, Knucklehead, that you're a leaf. Could say, we teachers, conductors, we're the trees. I could say we watch you fall. But none of that's it. Not at all. What you are now, I'll never see. And the thoughts, the words you kept from me remain your own. My truth? I'm still reaching for something lost when I left teaching. If you find it, Knucklehead, finish my poem and tell me how your life has come home and what you grieve and do not grieve and all you love and do not leave. Okay, so if you're joining, that was the title poem of my new book, Knucklehead. I'm very excited about this. So I wanted to just give a little teaser. So that was the kind of the title poem. I wrote that, I think, almost 5 years ago now when Christine and I were in Chicago. And I was just thinking about, like I was saying earlier, the knuckleheads that I taught and how they were kind of haunting me. And actually, I think to a large extent brought me back to the classroom. I missed those interactions, even though some of them were less than positive. As I was saying before, through the writing of this poetry manuscript, I realized, while in that first poem, I'm standing outside and naming and calling someone else a knucklehead, I realized, oh my goodness, the knucklehead lives in me, in various, all of the aspects of my life, really. And so this next poem I wrote recently, right? I finished writing it actually this summer. And when I think about teaching, I really kind of like thinking about like the whole scope of it. So some of you who know me know that my very first year of teaching, I was at a Catholic mission high school in Belize, this little village, Benque, Belize. And so there are wonderful things that happened during that year, and there are also things that like I look back and I'm like, oh my goodness, I did that as a teacher. And I think that's probably what a lot of us who teach for a living, we experience sort of the both and the glory and the depths of despair. So this poem tries to capture some of that, and it also is written to my students. So I taught, my first group was all boys. I had 2 sections of like 35 kids apiece. Some of them were older than I was, just because of the dynamics of the education system in this particular village. And so I'm writing to them now from the perspective of, 15 years in the game now. It's kind of a retrospective poem, but I identify myself as the knucklehead. So the title of the poem, all right, this is live, I'm trying to find it in the book, is Knucklehead Learns a New Word. And you'll see what word that is, so I'll just let you listen for it. And I'm writing to my students from that class. Knucklehead learns a new word. I'm sorry it wasn't till the end of the year that I asked you to write about yourselves. You filled pages in May and June. My arm and wrist were sore from writing, wow, and oh my goodness, in the margins, as you shared stories from your lives about the times you fell in love or lost somebody or learned to ride a bike. And so many of you wrote about your mothers, as so many of the boys and girls I've taught since have written about their mothers. To my mother, for my mother. I've read these words over and over for 15 years, and still they move me. And that year, my first time craning my neck to read them, I didn't understand how holy it was, what I was doing, holier than the masses I attended at the mission, than the confessions I made or the readings I assigned you, Dante and the Bible and Huckleberry Finn. I wasted so many words and days, bleeding the clock down, forcing your silence. When you broke it, "Ay, maestro," you would say, "tell us something new." Now I can't remember anything I said. I remember it felt strange, not to know what word would come next. I remember thinking I did not like letting go control. And on the radios blasting as I walked home, I heard, "Pásame la botella," and you singing along, "Voy a beber en nombre de ella." Sorry, and whizzing by me too on the bikes. You'd long since learned to ride. "Ay, maestro, ay, Dante," you'd call out, a smile and a laugh at my nickname, but yes, even the snickers a grace, I realize now. I don't have the yearbook anymore from 05, 06, but I bet some of you do. Some of you were on student council, right? Put us back in touch. I want more than regret for my first 7 months as your teacher. Want more than the cliche, "You gave me more than I gave you." That's not enough, though it's certainly true. There's another, maybe better. Words can travel 1,000 miles. And what I'm thinking about now is the 5 or 10 or 20 your mothers traveled for our first parent-teacher conferences. How nervous I was and did not know yet how much you loved them. For the Spanish-speaking, I knew enough to say, "Es un privilegio a enseñar a su hijo." It is a privilege to teach your son. Even then, slow as I was to see how holy it all was, I saw that. Privilegio. I say it still in Spanish that hasn't got much better to parents of boys and girls who speak that tongue. Es un privilegio. 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 The word lighter in Spanish than English, floating through tongue and teeth. I learned it, among many other things, my first year with you. Okay, that's the long, messy poem. Knucklehead learns a new word. I've been going on here for more than 10 minutes, so I'm going to call it. But check it out. Knucklehead, it's my new collection. Again, shout out to Maceo Montoya, longtime collaborator with Cristo Rey for the beautiful cover art. She said she would call the wind is the drawing, and I think that is a really good pairing for a lot of these poems. Thanks, Maceo. Thank you all for tuning in to this special edition. Hope it's a great Saturday, great weekend for you. Peace.